Hello, welcome back to Western Kabuki. As always, we have Alex. How are you doing today?
I think I've reached an age where I just have tummy troubles all the time. But other than that, I'm doing good. Yeah, Caleb. I appreciate Caleb's sympathetic laugh. I know what he's up against. So,
yeah. No, I'm getting to the point. I'm getting to the age, especially where it's like we're like people like in my life that are like coworkers would always be like, oh yeah, you'll just like get to a point in your life where like you'll like be in pain and it like instead of ending like it was when you were younger, it just won't stop. You know, like that pain, you don't heal anymore. You don't heal like you used to. And I feel like
I'm noise.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point. Maybe, who knows?
I think you got it.
But Caleb, how are you doing?
Also good. Also a tummy struggler.
We all are. We all are. Special guest this week, we have Liv Agar from QAnon Anonymous podcast, Twitch streamer and avid Twitter poster. Hey, Liv.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. No, lovely to have you here. And we're kind of talking this week. Well, we're kind of doing a little series right now where we're talking about just like different internet like forums and like the like horrible places and websites that have formed like the existence we live in, like politically and all of that sort of stuff. And right now we're going to be talking about 8chan, which the breeding ground of QAnon, which is QAnon Anonymous. That's like your guys' bread and butter over there. Yeah.
It's the catastrophic event that gave me a job. First thing online. It's great.
Liv, prior to and I'm sure you've probably answered this on your show, but prior to being on QAA, what was your exposure to 8chan?
I found out about 8chan mainly through the fact that it was like where Q started to or where Q moved. Because I remember it's originally on 4chan. I just remember it being just like the more cursed version of 4chan, ran by just the most comically absurd, like son-father combination possible.
That dynamic is very good. Just an insane pervert father and his just strange, off-putting son.
They both hate the podcast so much, but I don't think either have noticed me yet.
What if they said, I didn't know that they like have acknowledged QAA before?
Yeah, because like QA talks, we talk about their links to QAnon a lot. I believe they, the dad is called all three main hosts gay. Definitely. I think they're
awesome.
They're gay with each other, I think. That one stuck with me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Father-son combo. The father-son like duo has just changed the world at like different points in history. Gotta love us father-son duo. Holy shit.
Not as powerful as nephew-uncle.
Uncle.
Yeah.
Right, father-son's almost right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I think with this episode, we just talked to Frederick Brennan, was his last name, the like founder of 8chan, and we didn't go too much into like the QAnon stuff.
We want to leave that for you, but we did have a really good conversation with him about like how he founded it and how he got involved with the Watkins and his kind of experiences and interpretation of events leading up to his resignation, basically. But let's see, how would you describe like the origins of QAnon? So it started off on we got it a little bit before. It starts off on 4chan and then it ends up moving over to 8chan. So what, Liv, just give us a rundown. What is QAnon? Because actually, you'd be surprised. June didn't really know much about this prior to this recording.
So to be fair, I know about QAnon. I like know the like basic timeline, you know, like the whole like the storm, the like the news drops, but I didn't like follow it too much. I really don't know about like the finer details about QAnon. Yeah.
Right. You get the kind of the oeuvre, the community.
I get the picture.
Yeah. The type of people who believe in it, but the specifics, yeah. I feel like that's pretty common, yeah. QAnon is basically the idea that there is this secret poster, first on 4chan and then on 8chan, who has insider knowledge and is close to Donald Trump and is leaving little hints and clues through cryptic messages online about this secret war that Donald Trump is waging against basically all of the evil people in the world that are all in this cabal group. It's Hillary Clinton. It's everyone that, if you're like on the right in America and the culture where you hate, and they're all pedophiles and they sacrifice children to, a satanic god. And he's giving you kind of secret information about it. Initially it kind of starts as like a LARP. It's very shitposty, where like a lot of the people who are interacting with it are in on it. And I believe that a lot of the initial posts aren't even under like a specific login. So it's kind of just people riffing. And then slowly over time, I think the people who are surrounded, who reply to Q, who interact with them, get a lot more serious, I think. It starts to become a lot more like true believers, I guess.
Like they didn't realize like that people were just riffing. They just saw this like maybe semi-ironic sort of like riff, and they're like, oh, this is like the information about the secret war of the pedophiles. And I mean, I've seen like communities on like Facebook, like QAnon, before because I think they now ban sort of QAnon communities, and there's always been like in-person QAnon events as well. And like you see the people that tend to go to these like QAnon type events in real life tend to be like older, sort of like what would be described as like middle America sort of type of person. So maybe not like the most media literate type of person. So I could totally see them falling for this like secret war, like news drop type stuff super easily.
Yeah. It's interesting because like one of the reasons why it spreads, I think, and this is kind of interpretation, it's a little bit ambiguous, is that a lot of the original people who were on the ground kind of shitposting, creating this sort of, idea, thought it would be funny to convince people that it's true.
And it kind of is. Like, yeah, I mean, that's really fucking funny.
It's kind of funny to do. Yeah. There's a lot of like similar sort of ideas that are kind of spreading around 4chan on poll in this period that are similar, where it's like people predicting that Hillary Clinton's going to get arrested for like pedophilia and being like, I have an insider source on this. And they're like, it's funny. Like, wouldn't it be funny if we like convinced people that this is true?
I could only dream of having like a constant because I think a lot of people have had like a moment where they like make a post and it's like, oh, you like fool, like a little satirical post, and it like fools some people, but like making a movement out of like a political movement out of fooling people is just astonishing. That's incredible.
Yeah. And also, especially like you saw like how the Hillary campaign, for instance, reacted to like Pepe's.
Oh, that didn't help. That probably made it worse.
Exactly, because now you have people who are like, not only can we fool idiot, my boomer idiot, uncle or whatever, but it can also make the libs go insane.
And what's more important than making the libs cry and get
That's
those
the ethos
liberals
behind half of this?
Exactly.
Yeah, liberal tears.
I made fun of Hillary Clinton on Twitter the other day, and I got an angry person in my replies whose display name was Paid Pussy Eater.
Shout out to Paid Pussy
and
Eater.
I was just like, thank you, Paid Pussy Eater, for standing up for. It's about time someone stood up for Hillary Clinton. She needed this.
A couple months ago, I saw I was at this just cafe writing, and I saw a gaggle of Gen X white women. This is slightly related in pussy hats.
Oh my god!
And I was
like the pink,
yeah, the pink,
the pink.
God, I haven't thought about those in a while.
I know. I was like, shit, they still exist.
They're not all just at thrift stores or in garbage cans. Yeah. That's incredible.
A bunch of women who got cryogenically frozen in 2015 and just got let out.
Aside from that Hillary Clinton was going to be arrested for child sacrificing and pedophilia and all that stuff, what were some of the kind of the outline of the claims that QAnon is making?
It's interesting because like a lot of the claims are like incredibly cryptic. And like Q would really actively encourage people to interpret the meanings of things. A lot of them, it's like movie pop culture references of like, you know, Alice in Wonderland, follow the rabbit hole. And then just like a bunch of weird cryptic stuff. And someone would reply like, oh, this is about Hillary, you know, Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia. And then Q would be like, you're on the mark. It's like clearly not quite what it was about. Or maybe Q had some intention, but maybe they were just, the poster was just throwing shit at the wall. So a lot of what it became about was really like a oddly communal thing, which is I think one of the reasons why it was so effective. Because it was just like, what is the popular answer here? And the popular answer was that like a lot of pop cultural stuff, like The Matrix is kind of true analogically. Adrenochrome, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the weird like extracting it from people. Although there's also like, instead of it being hallucinogenic, it gives you eternal life.
Vampire type shit.
Yeah. All of the people here who are bad that you don't like are pedophiles. Like the military is going to take over and just kill them all, sort of Day of the Rope style.
Yeah, no, that reminded me. There was like the communal like drops. Everyone would come together. Like I do remember seeing that a lot. Like when QAnon was like, I don't know if it's still happening or if it's still like being posted in the same way. But I do remember at the time, like when drops would happen because a lot of these like right wingers would be like they would come together and do like investigations. It was like if a new like trailer for a movie comes out, like it's like, or at least that's kind of a way I think of it. Like, you know how like a trailer will come out and a lot of people will be talking about a trailer online or whatever. A Q drop would come out and everyone would be talking about the Q drop, or maybe not everyone, but all the freaks would be talking about it and curious and keep people curious about like Q as a concept, like us would maybe be talking about it too, just because it's like, what is this bullshit that they're trying to like the twist now? Like, what is this insane bullshit, you know?
Yeah, no. So it's interesting because Q initially stopped posting. Like the general, I think, theory of believed sort of timeline is that after Q moves to HN, at some point the Watkins family, the Watkins dad-son combo take over and start posting, and you see a very different posting style. It's a lot less creative. It's more boring, honestly. But their control of Q, they stop posting. I believe it's like after January 6th, around that period, because it's too hot.
Oh, so like that late, like 2020? Or
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was that 2021?
2020, I believe, is the like late 2020 is the last Q post, and they get a lot less common. Early on, there's a lot of Q drops. It's just throwing shit at the wall. And yeah, it seems like it's a thing of like it's too hot. They don't want to touch it. But then they and the later posts, it's like you should Pokemon go to the polls for Donald Trump. Like it's not like we have this under control. Hillary Clinton death date 30 days from now.
The whimsy was lost. The joy from their souls was drained. Yeah. Aw. But sorry, go on.
But interestingly, like Q comes back right before the midterm elections and basically says like, in case you were wondering, I'm back. You should still Pokemon go to the polls. And the Watkins fucked it up. So in a way, they basically revealed unambiguously that it was like Jim Watkins posting, or Ron Watkins posting.
How did they do that?
I believe at one point, Ron accidentally replied to a post like as if it was Ron, but instead using the Q thing. And then they quickly deleted it from the site. There's a couple other things that like demonstrate that they're bad site moderators, because like sleuths who have some sort of technical knowledge, like Brennan, for instance, were like, yeah, this is clearly just them manipulating it. So it looks like it's the Q trip, the Q login, but it's like edited.
Oh, okay.
It's like a site admin who's posting it.
So you mentioned, and this has come up earlier too when we were talking about this, it was stolen. So the QAnon trip code was stolen. Does anyone know who like the original, like it was just like some guy maybe, like it wasn't even like because it wasn't Trump. It was never Trump. I think that's obviously clear that it was not Trump or someone close to Trump, but it was just like some guy like running this account.
Yeah.
Before.
Initially it wasn't even under a trip. I'm as far as I'm aware, a lot of the earlier posts, it's just random. It's anonymous. So it's just a couple of people and then someone who I don't think we know. I don't think we know their identity, has like a trip login.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, there isn't all that many theories of who Q is outside of like when the Watkins get the handle on it. It's probably just some Pepe out there who's like, he's just walking around somewhere like, I am QAnon, those fucking bastards.
Yeah. There's a guy, an insane man from South Africa named Paul Ferber, who seems to be the leading candidate as like the main Q prior to the Watkins takeover in 2018. That's what Frederick seems to believe anyway, and some other people have have talked about that. He was in the that HBO documentary for a little bit. If you guys, any of you had seen that, as he's like wants to kind of take credit for being Q, but he can't because he's telling the noble lie. You know what I mean? It's very funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's just like some guy. Was he like a politician down there?
No, he's just some bored middle-aged guy from South Africa that was hyper online.
Honestly, respect. Who isn't hyper online?
Those guys need something. We got to find something to do with these guys, or you're going to get another QAnon.
Yeah. No, you have to like when you hit your middle ages, when you get to like 40, you have to get a hobby. Otherwise, you turn out to be like that kind of guy. Yeah, you got to be careful. We have like instead of letting these guys be online all the time, like I'm like planning because I'm getting there. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do when I hit 40? I'm like kind of soft launching as like a hot sauce guy, or maybe I could become a World War II guy. I haven't decided, but there's some options. It's like choosing your first Pokemon, but for the latter half of your life. Yeah, like you could get really into wearing sunglasses. Like some guys really love those like really multicolor sunglasses. That's a big one. Yeah,
so you have some options. Fish.
I think I already know like what I'm gonna be when I hit like 40, which is like a Japan guy. Like it's dormant. I watched like the Shogun and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Soft launching as you're going to like learn about like the fascist history. You're going to have like Mishima books. Yeah. You're going to know everything. Yeah.
There is also the Liv, you'll probably know far more about this guy than I do because I don't know that much. But there's the guy who the leading theory for him is that it's Michael Flynn is QAnon and Stewanon, what's his name? Jim Stewartson. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He hates your guys' asses.
Yeah, no, Jim Stewart, he's not. Yeah, he's a bit of a...
Tell us about Stewanon.
Yeah, I've seen that dude on Twitter nonstop, just constantly harassing anyone who does any real work around QAnon.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a mark. He's not particularly like basically, if you are on the right and you want attention, you message him being like, "I'm QAnon" or something, and he will cover you. He'll be like, "Oh, really?" Like he's a very gullible, not particularly smart.
Genuinely one of the dumbest people, but he's just made this his whole thing.
Yeah, he is kind of like we talked about, like we need to give like people like who are like 40 and they need like a hobby. That's like the Democrat version. Like Republican is your white South African, you make QAnon. Dem version is Jim Stewartson.
You become like a shitty journalist, basically, is what it sounds like. Yeah.
Like
he's like committed his entire life to something that's like extremely wrong.
Yeah, no, he's just completely like the first, like the logical beginning point for just everything he's doing. It's just completely incorrect. But
I kind of have, again, with like all of these people, it's like I kind of got to respect that they're just sticking to their guns. They're just doing what they want. They're doing what they want to believe.
Yeah.
Where did he come from? Like, who was this guy before he became an online person who harasses you guys mainly?
Stewartson is very weird. I try not to, if you have lore, please.
He like in medieval times, traveling merchants would follow around like armies. And to my mind, there's like these guys that like there are movements and things that happen. They just kind of get in on the hustle and grind, whether it's like you become like a Gamergate, anti-woke Gamergate journalism, like journalists like Ian Miles Chong, excuse me. He's like kind of like that. He just kind of got pulled into this vortex, but in the opposite way. He like, I don't really know that much about him. I've interacted with him a few times because he's been very mean to some of my friends. But like it started out like with just a normal career, and he had some sort of acclaim. He was like an animator or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but normal. And then he just really got obsessed with all this stuff. And now he has an insanely funny Substack that I'm looking at called mind-war.com. And it's like the lib version of like Alex Jones.
Yeah. I immediately thought of InfoWars. Yeah.
It's literally like, it's like almost admirable. Mind war instead of information war, the war for your mind. He just went straight to that. And then it's just like that, but, woke, I guess. I don't know how to describe this at all, but it's very funny. And he gets pissed all the time, and he will, like, if you are bored and you want a guy to watch, just go look at his page, because anybody that he'll get into like a 3-day quote tweet war with some guy with like 50 followers because they say that he's wrong, that Michael Flynn is not QAnon. It's very funny.
So what's the theory with Michael Flynn? Because I remember like Michael Flynn was like a mainstay of like early Trump sort of administration. I think he was in the Trump admin for a little bit, if I remember correctly. But how did he become like the guy? Like, because I know he acknowledged multiple times a lot of this like white supremacy, like the QAnon and like some of the more like white rabbit type of like language that was used around QAnon. Like, but other than that, was there a reason why he was like looked at as possibly the guy for a little bit?
Flynn was definitely pretty on board with Q. Like he did the like QAnon sort of salute. There was this video, like Q believers were posting like a video of them, this weird pledge of allegiance to like Q sort of thing, and he did it.
Oh no!
So among like, and he's definitely gone to and associated with some pretty like influential people in the Q world. Like that's his sort of like bid, is to grift off of their money, basically.
Yeah.
But I think Stewartson just like, it's the same with people. I'm sure Stu has said this too, who say that like QAnon is Russia, which is like you want the conspiracy to be there.
Yeah. Okay. So like Russia for like liberals, where it's like Russia explains everything bad that's happening in America with Trump is, yeah.
It can't just be that like QAnon became popular because people are insane and that's what they wanted. Like that's what a lot of online right-wing people just wanted to believe, is like Hillary Clinton is a pedophile and the military is going to take over and arrest, like hang her publicly. Like they're like, that's cool. Sure. Awesome. I believe
it. So with like 8chan in particular, it was obviously like the breeding ground. It was the starting zone for QAnon. Like how long, did it ever, we briefly touched on before, like some of the like massive shootings that happened as like a branch of like users of 8chan, but like other than like the Christchurch shooting, and I guess the El Paso shooting too was another one. Like other than like those shootings and QAnon, was there like any other like breach of containment of this website related to any of those, or was it basically just like this toxic breeding ground for like these radical people?
I think that there must have been other moments where like 8chan, 8kun, because it eventually rebranded as 8kun, I believe after which shooting? One of the shootings that was directly related to. That's a good question. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it was like a more uncensored version of 4chan. I'm trying to think of other like really large instances.
I mean, QAnon's a pretty huge one.
Yeah.
I was just curious. It had all the right people on there anyway, because the Gamergate stuff that kind of populated a lot of those guys stayed there, and as focus off of Gamergate kind of decreased, focus on Gamergate decreases, they still have this place to kind of hang out in, and that's where you start to see this community fester a little bit. So like in a way, like like 8chan was like the perfect place for QAnon to move to. I mean, it happened for other reasons, but I mean, that was the most welcoming audience for Q as well.
Yeah, because so would you say that like as Gamergate sort of petered out, QAnon started to thrive? Is that like a pretty clear through line? There's not really
a relationship there necessarily. It's just that there's like kind of like there's this milieu of like kind of psychotic right wing people are online and they've just made 8chan their home. So obviously that kind of content is going to do well there.
For sure.
Like I think like 4chan has had a long history of like targeted harassment, basically. Like owning the normies. We have our insider joke, and we're gonna make like them believe it, or we're gonna make them like be troubled by it. It's a really like there's a classic like really old Oprah clip of like I think that was from like 2008 or something, where she's like, this pedophile has posted something terrible on our message board saying that he's raping over 9,000 children, and they're all like, and it's like it's a 4chan, it's like.
It's over 9,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh no.
I think that culture certainly holds on to and like culminates in QAnon, and then like when that culture moves to like 8chan, it's a website that's much more kind of directed towards that right wing, I guess like harassment, owning the normies, that sort of thing. So it definitely becomes a more sort of extreme locus of that. Sort of thing that was invented on 4chan that sort of started in a vaguely politically neutral way as like we're just trolling, but now it became much more explicitly political.
Yeah. So this is just like maybe off topic, but I remember there was like a year or two ago, maybe 3 years, there was like a political candidate who was supposedly connected to QAnon, like was QAnon. Was that one of the Watkins?
Yeah, Ron Watkins ran for Congress, I believe.
Okay, I do remember that. So that is the same guy. I didn't realize that.
And
okay.
A part of the comeback for Q likely related to him running for Congress in the midterm, attempts to kind of get eyes on like by the Q people. Because at this point, and this is especially the case now, like most of the Q people had abandoned QAnon as an idea because it's like, well, if the narrative is that Trump is doing a military coup and Patriots are in control and he just lost an election, like clearly this guy, he's lying, or they've lost, or we don't want to believe it anymore. Which of course they continue to believe all the other stuff about Hillary Clinton being a pedophile, and Adrena even like,
and they're right, of course.
Of course, yeah, she does. Yeah. she does sacrifice children to an owl god.
Of course,
it is correct. Yeah. But there was an attempt to revive that for his political campaign because he did get some decent proximity to like the Trump kind of team. Like that sort of social circle because of the vague proximity to Q. Yeah.
What was that, Caleb?
So that's very fucking depressing.
Yeah.
These people like fail upwards all the time. It's incredible.
But it was odd because like he did like a political debate with the other candidates, and he's just like, I think he's still trolling. Like at one point, one of the other candidates, this happened a couple years ago, so I remember he's a little sparse, but like confronted him on an issue, and he was just like, "Oh, sorry, you're right." Like in the debate, he's just like, "I guess you're right. Sorry, yeah, I didn't think about that."
Oh, he doesn't know how to do, he doesn't know how to do politics.
He's like,
you're never supposed to admit you're wrong when you're in debating politics. That's mistake. That's day one. You're weird. Always right. That's the thing. When you're talking about politics, you're always right.
Because I think maybe it's just like he's such a Chan troll that he's like still being ironic, but like
he can't not be ironic.
Exactly,
so nihilistic.
Yeah,
that doesn't translate to real votes because, as I recall, there was like that was a shitload. There was almost like 10 candidates in that primary, and he came in last.
Yeah.
He got rinsed.
Yeah, he barely. I think he got no more than like 2%, if that even. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a really weird, hellish moment there leading up to the midterms where it was like, is Q going to be back? Is Ron Watkins going to be a politician? And then the answer is like, no, it's not that bad.
The world isn't as bad as it could be, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully, possibly.
Yeah.
But I believe he went back to Australia. I'm not sure what because the Q coming back gave even more hot water to the Watkins, because he really did confirm pretty unambiguously that, like, yeah, they're posting as Q. Like, that's them.
Yeah, it wasn't Trump. There was not like a friend of Trump. It was just these goobers, basically.
Yeah, and like, I mean, that's not, the Q is pretty related to January 6th. Like, that's not, you don't want to be in that. They're very, like, self-interested people. So they got out of that. I do not predict a return of Q, although at this point it would be very funny.
The last post was like 2 years ago, and that had been like 2 years or something like that. And you tell me, but as I recall, it was basically like the saw voice of like, do you want to play a game, basically? And people were like, you're fake. Like, nobody believes this anymore.
Well, it was like the game is you go to the polls and you vote Republican, which is like not really all that inspiring. Of like,
there's no mystery. There's
at least like a schizophrenic artistry of the early Q drops. I have to say that the Watkins family was just really not good at replicating.
Yeah, they did not have it.
I brought this up on a different recording we did a little bit ago, but I followed this like Q the Storm Twitter account, and it's basically like, about that one? Yeah, it's basically. Yeah. I imagine it's like what like old QAnon drops would be. Like there's the most recent post says, "Peace be with you. Remember, only love wins." And I go back. Let me go back 24 hours. Nothing can stop what's coming. Those who know don't sleep. And it's just like paranoid schizophrenic type posts like that every single day, and the replies are just so much fun. And I imagine these are just like where QAnon people are now, like under accounts like this, like trying to replicate the magic of like the early QAnon 8chan.
Jason the Dragon. Yeah, it's really fun to see those people out in the wild still, and you find a lot of them under like, they need a new cult leader, so you see a lot of them have like flocked to guys like Maverick or whatever, but you'll still see a lot of QAnon people out there, and it's kind of depressing.
Yeah, that honestly felt like it was 2018 again. I just saw like the full Q like account, because I feel like it's not like those accounts, they don't post quite like Q. They're definitely like Q fanboys. But you used to have
absolutely
used to have people who had just like, there were so many, they had like so many Twitter followers and other like social media sites. They were on YouTube, and like their whole thing was just like basically like Q inspo posting. It's a weird it's like a weird motivational thing of like remember, the storm is coming, and then it's like over a sunset or something.
Yeah,
that's what this account is.
Yeah.
This account is gonna have. It's been growing like crazy. It's gonna have 200,000 followers in a couple of months. I have no doubt. Like, it's huge. But no, I love that there's inspo. That's such a funny way to put that. Holy shit.
Maybe the most cursed timeline is that like Trump wins 2024, and then Q does just come back, and then all those guys are like, wait, we're back, and then they just keep and it's just 2018 again. Like, it's just the worst.
It does feel like sometimes we live in like a cyclical timeline politically, where things will just keep coming back. It's like the thing from Twin Peaks, it's happening again, or whatever that bullshit is. Yeah,
I'm looking at my my QAnon guy list, and I found a guy who made he calls it the Q Patriot sword. He made a QAnon sword, so they're still doing it. And then I found this post, I had it bookmarked. This is back in January, but then I looked at his most recent post, and it's why do people age? It's a choice. And then there's some sort of explainer video about how you don't actually have to age. So,
damn,
these guys are killing it out there.
Shit, this is a good time to find this information out.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you
I'll
please
link I'll link you guys in the chat a picture of the QAnon sword.
It'd be funny if he was like, the choice, take finasteride and estrogen. Like,
and they would be right. I would co-sign that. I would be like, this Q guy.
He gets it.
You're right. That's going to be our next episode, is how to stop aging. That's going to be next week. Yeah, we're gonna learn how to no longer age.
I feel like it's worth mentioning that at the time, like, QAnon felt very scary. Like, it felt very unprecedented and like way fucked up. And now it feels kind of silly.
Yeah,
it definitely feels way different. But I mean, like, the sort of delighted disregard for anything that resembles truth, like, that kind of carries on and in certain political communities, right? Like the spirit of QAnon is like alive and well, even though like QAnon itself is kind of dead.
Yeah, I mean, The Sound of Freedom, like, the Jim Caviezel, who like he produced it, like, believes in QAnon. He made that, the child trafficking movie, and in interviews he was like, yeah, this thing called adrenochrome, they extract it from children, and that's why child trafficking happens, and it gives them eternal life. It's like, that movie did so well. It made like $100 million at the box office? It was like a very successful film. Like,
there was like a lot of, and Caleb, you know a lot about this because we talked about it at the time, but there was like a lot of like weird, like foul, I don't want to say foul play, but like it seemed like it was a little bit of a money
in terms of like buying tickets.
Oh, yeah, because the deal was you could like buy a ticket for a stranger, was like the whole thing. And so people like
pay it forward.
You could pay a ticket forward. And so like insane people would just spend like hundreds of dollars on tickets, or maybe even potentially dark money, who knows. But like, yeah, there was some fuckery afoot with how that movie made its money, which is, I gotta say, pretty brilliant marketing strategy, if nothing else.
Yeah, it works.
I did post the sword. I want your guys' takes on the sword. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. It's in the chat.
Sword, yeah.
Because I don't think this guy made the sword. He calls it the Q Patriot sword, but he didn't make this.
So why is it the Q Patriot sword? Because it looks like a football like thing, right? Like it has like the
yeah.
And, okay, I look like a fool.
A piece of shit. Looks like a gas station sword.
Yeah.
So when I say, let me. When I say football thing, I'm referencing Roman numerals. Numerals on the. So I am just kind of a dumbass. But it looks like, yeah. What does it say up there? Vulcanus. This seems to be like a LARP, like Roman Empire type sword, but like a Marvel. It's like a Marvel version of like the Roman Empire, like what people would imagine that. It's insane. This is crazy.
Yeah, that is like. There was something odd, especially like during the Trump presidency with Q people, is like they are kind of just like babies doing imaginary like playtime. They're surprisingly like happy. Like, this tweet is ridiculous. I'll read it. I'm going to use the Q Patriot sword to bring massive pain during no mind in brackets wrong way trust sessions. Which I'm not sure that.
Like, I want to pick that. That's obviously just another like middle-aged guy that has too much time on his hands. I just want to pick him up and like burp him and then put him to bed because he's fussy.
But literally, he's like, I bought a fancy sword that is not related to Q, and is like, this is my Q sword. They said we couldn't forge one, and I did.
Yeah, like, no, you bought that at like a flea market, dog. Like, what are you talking about? But it's just so
$3. Yeah, no. So when was like the point? Like, what was the moment where it went from being really scary and like, oh, these people are gonna ruin this country? And I still think like QAnon did kind of irreparably damage a lot of people's minds, and still to this day. But like, when did it go from like being like a terrifying force to like what it is now? We're laughing about this stupid dumbass sword that this guy got at a flea market for $2. Like, when did it shift to that?
I feel like to me it was probably
like 2020. It was like
2020. or maybe 2020. Like, definitely after January 6th and the fallout, where Q is gone and Trump isn't the president. Like, you still had people who were like, Biden isn't really the president and it's like a film set, and Trump is really at the Oval. But like, for the most part, people had like moved on.
That's some late stage cope.
That's like, yeah. Here's how Trump could still win, sort of, you know. So at that point, like, QAnon still has like done irreparable damage on culture, and like we would probably be much better off if it didn't exist. Like its legacy is still bad, but like it itself as like a group isn't really. Yeah, I think probably early, like Fallout January 6th, 2021, or because Q just stops posting. And it's like, the point of Q, why it was so exciting was like he would post all the time. You'd have all of these like things to bake and interpret. And like it was a communal experience that you would like, there's a specific board on 8chan like for Q baking. And it was just you log on and you're like, what is the cool thing? What is interpret like? What did the secret operative that like only a certain amount of people know about cryptically relay to me and my friends about the grand war that's going on right now? And then when he stops posting, it's like, well, shit, and Trump's not in office anymore, so it holds less of a sway, or holds no real sway.
Right. So I don't know if this is something you would know, or Caleb, you might know more about this. So what are the Watkins doing now? Like, because do they still own 8chan, right?
They do.
Like, so they had his failed run for office, of course, but like, yeah, what are they up to now?
I actually should have done a little bit more research as of today, but in preparation for this episode, I was reading about it, and it's not available in the ClearNet anymore. You have to do it through Tor, and it's basically like a fraction of its former self. I have not been on it in years. It was the last time I checked that site out, so I don't know, and I don't really know what the Watkinses are really up to since. I tried asking Fred if he had any insight on that prior to us recording too, and he said he has no idea or contact with them. So
yeah, I think they might just be laying low, because I know that there was some inquiry into their relationship to January 6th.
Yeah, Jim had to come and testify before Congress, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're probably just laying low, and they have a lot of other business interests. So I'm sure that they're just busy doing other things that aren't, public facing.
Yeah, or as psychotic.
No, I bet it's probably as psychotic, but it's just not public facing.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Well, like we talked about in the other episode, like he got his start, he got his early start doing fairly dubious, if not outright illegal pornography. So they're doing some weird bad stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, they are the pedophiles. He is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. I did want to ask, because we're probably getting at a good point to maybe wrap this up, Liv, but do you see, like, before we end this, a future for any of this, or what is the post-Q landscape look like, for these people? What's your take on all that?
For the influencers, I think like most of them are kind of scattered into the wind, because Q really was like given to the masses through Q influencers, because most people didn't want to go on 8kun. If you're some like 60-year-old boomer, you don't know what that means. Which is, it has been fun to see them kind of eat shit, return to like doing like weird, supplement ads and stuff, and pushing their like, you should drink a little bit of bleach. That's one of the guys. What's his
just
name?
a little.
He's like a bleach, yeah. But in terms of like the majority follower base and its influence, I think it's like way more influential than it was like a couple years ago even. But I think it's like a bit more subtle. Like it just is the case now that like a fairly significant portion of the Republican base like believes like a good amount of QAnon when they like used to not. It's not like, I'm sure most of them were still insane beforehand, but they're more insane now, and insane in a very specific way that's molded by Q. To believe that there's this shadowy cabal that the Democrats and other people like on the other side of the culture war are in, that they probably sacrifice children, or at least are pedophiles, and there's a big pedophile ring out there that like you have to watch out for if you have like a kid. You're in some like white suburb, like they're going to pick you up and Hillary Clinton's going to molest you or whatever if you don't watch out for them.
Yeah, I mean, even with like QAnon's crash, there was the whole like protect the kids movement that happened. I think that's what it was called, which was basically just an extension of QAnon type belief in people. And like this sort of stuff is always evolving, and it has a different name and different leaders, I feel like. So I don't know. And then like with Elon Musk, I feel like we're kind of seeing a resurgence in part because of Elon Musk, maybe. The way he's running Twitter, just because these people can kind of thrive a bit more now again.
Yeah, he brought a bunch of those old suspended accounts back for sure.
He did, yeah. So I think it's in part because of him, frankly.
Yeah. And some of these ideas are like believed before, you know, stranger danger, satanic panic stuff. But Q molds it and shaped it in a particular way and made it a lot more, I think, popular. And now we just have like, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene believes, I don't know if she believes it now, but believed in QAnon, like completely, fully, 100%. You know, there's videos in 2017 where she's like, there's this guy named Q. I heard of him through Liz Crokin. And he seems to be saying some really correct things about, you know, politics. So we just are in a world where like those sort of people, where like that was inconceivable like 10 years. Like the idea of someone who publicly espoused that and is just like, I guess she's going to be a politician for a while now. Like she's in a pretty safe district. Her constituency likes her, right? Like, or was she? Did she? No, that was Boebert almost lost. But MTG is like, so you know,
Boebert is blinking red right now. She's weak.
Yes, yeah.
It's partially because of her feud with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who thinks she's a fake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that was really recent, right? That like just happened.
What was that over?
I don't know. They didn't. I think
remember.
it's like the social pressure that was put on them in a way. Like, oh, these two like ultra mega. Which one's going to be the alpha freak? I don't know. I kind of had a feeling that they were not going to be friends for very long.
Yeah,
one of them had to be. It's like Highlander. One of them had to be the one.
And we should have known the one who won is the one who did CrossFit. That's just like,
yeah. And
see the way she was just
Boebert
swinging on that bar? Like, she's going to win that.
Yeah.
Such an iconic video. The like poles like shaking. Yeah. Yeah, no, you could do a whole like Republican politician, crazy politician like universe, like expose about all of their like relations and how they fluctuate. You get like George Santos in there and his relationship with a lot of those people.
Yeah, he's so close with Marjorie Taylor Greene. He loves her.
He is, which is crazy because he's not like I mean, say what you will about George Santos, and there's a lot you could say about him, but he was never like a conspiracy guy, like in the way that she is.
No,
he was like kind of a freak about other things, but never that way.
Yeah, I didn't really know anything about his politics or anything like that. Just that he was very funny. So
he was very funny.
Liv, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
You should listen to QAA. It's a podcast we talk about conspiracy theories, current events, laugh about it, cry about it. You know, I also have a Substack where I talk about politics, philosophy, culture. liveagar.com. And I sometimes stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/liveagar.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, if you want to hear our interview with Fred, that is available on Patreon, patreon.com/Western Kabuki. It's really good. There's a lot of insight into the early founding and how he met Jim and Ron. It is an interesting story. So check it out there, crazy. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.